Ryan Silverfield is off to Arkansas, and it's time to look at some candidates to potentially replace him. Now, Ryan Silverfield did a great job of getting Memphis back to being a winning program. And I think I had concerns about him through his first few years about if he was going to be able to do that. Did a really good job of hiring the right people, identifying talent, and did a great job of recruiting and also with the transfer portal. Big reason why Arkansas wanted him as a head coach, and a big reason why he could be successful with the Razorbacks. Now, Memphis is in a tough spot to be able to replace him, but at the same time, there's plenty of resources for the right guy to take over. And I think that there are a lot of exciting names that could take over for Ryan Silverfield and continue the success. Now, the last few coaches for Memphis have all experienced success, so this is going to be a high pressure situation, especially in the American. There's a lot of people that believe this is the best job in the American Conference, maybe even within the G5. You're looking at a program that has experienced success over multiple different coaches. They have NIL figured out. They clearly know how to get people on board with this program and get players to be excited about coming to this place. So the new coach does have a lot of pressure, but they also have plenty of opportunities. Now, the first name that came to mind is I think Ricky Ronnie would do a great job at Memphis. You look at what he's done at Old Dominion, lost so much talent in the transfer portal, and all he's done is reload every single year. Now, his record is probably going to be a concern for people. However, if you look at the entire situation, the work that he did with depleted rosters shows you what he could potentially do. It shows that he can lose starters and he's developed the talent behind them where they're ready to step up and compete right away. And even if they can't find a guy to do that on the roster, he's identified players in the transfer portal that know how to compete and how to be a good player for Old Dominion. If you give him the keys to Memphis, you have some of those things that go away. Now, losing players to the transfer portal is always going to be a problem for a group of 5 team. You're just going to see less of that. Also, the talent that you're going to be able to get is much better than what you have at Old Dominion. Ronnie was looking for diamonds in the rough in recruiting in the transfer portal. You don't have to do that as much at Memphis. So if you're giving him more talent and you're taking away a lot of his problems, you're looking at a coach who knows how to win. And how do I know that? Look at what the Monarchs did this year. This is a team that finally had a good amount of continuity on both sides of the ball. They didn't have to replace a ton of talent, and they had success, competed for a Sun Belt championship. They did make a run. It's just they weren't a James Madison. That's a guy who I know could be really successful at Memphis. I think that he would be a great fit, has the right tools, the ability to hire the right coaches. I think that would be a home run hire for Memphis, and I think it would be really fun to see what he could do. Ryan Beard at Missouri State. This one is a little bit more of a risk if you were looking at it from a Memphis perspective, but what he's done at Missouri State, especially in their first season as an FBS program, deserves a ton of recognition, and he will get an opportunity. He'll get calls about moving up, and I think that what he's done, the lineage that he comes from, makes him an attractive coach for Memphis. A Memphis program that is used to seeing explosive offenses, Ryan Beard's offense should be able to do the exact same thing. Dan Mullen's another one to consider. Currently at UNLV, 1 year, he's done a pretty good job. They're 10-2 right now. I think that Dan Mullen would be so much fun to watch at Memphis. Now, is he waiting for a bigger opportunity? That's probably the biggest question right now. There are plenty of opportunities for him waiting, so maybe that's what he's waiting for, or maybe he's waiting for the next cycle for more P4 jobs to open up. That is something to consider, but I do think he'd be super fun to watch at Memphis. Buster Faulkner, if you're looking for a guy that's ready for his first time opportunity, Buster Faulkner is not too far away at Georgia Tech. Big reason why the Yellow Jackets have had their success this year is because of the offense, and Faulkner is the play caller that leads that charge. He's been super fun to watch, done a great job with Haynes King, knows what he is doing, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do as a potential head coach. He's going to get an opportunity. It's just a matter of where. Will Stein is another one. Same thing at Oregon. The Ducks are having a ton of success because Will Stein has figured out ways to use his personnel in different ways. He's adapted to the injuries that they've sustained this year. It's just going to come down to, does he want to take an opportunity as a head coach right now, or is he going to wait for the next cycle? He may have Dante Moore coming back. That's something to keep an eye on, but that is a name that is going to be high on a lot of people's lists. If you want to look for a name that has good head coaching experience at Conference USA, Tyson Helton is a guy that is going to get an opportunity at some point. Now, we'll see where he ends up. Maybe North Texas is another option for him, but Tyson Helton could be really fun at Memphis. Similar to some of these other coaches, has had to deal with roster depletion at times, has had to replace his quarterback, and it's clear that he knows how to identify quarterback talent. This is someone who knows how to build his roster, and given where Memphis is at, be a little bit easier for him to retain some of that talent. So that's someone to keep an eye on. A really exciting name there. Going with the offensive theme, Sean Lewis could be another name to keep an eye on. A great offensive mind, has done good things at San Diego State, at Kent State. I think that he is someone that is going to get an opportunity. It's just a matter of when and where, and I really like what he could potentially do at a place with more resources. Charles Huff. Charles Huff has done great things at Marshall. Now, a Southern Miss team feels like they're a little bit disappointed towards the end of the season, but they still had more success than they've experienced recently. Great recruiter, understands how to build his roster, builds a good culture. I think he'd be great at Memphis. I think that Memphis actually could get better from Ryan Silverfield with what Charles Huff has as a foundation. Other names that Memphis fans maybe don't necessarily want, but are going to be connected to them. Billy Napier is one of them. Now, everybody's probably going to stay away from Billy Napier after getting fired from Florida, but keep in mind what he did at Louisiana. It's clear that he knows what he is doing as a head coach. You just have to find the right situation for him. Now, whether or not Memphis is willing to give him that opportunity, I think that he still has a lot of good head coaching days ahead of him. So that's something to keep an eye on. A name that I saw linked, I don't necessarily know how much I like this one. Hugh Freeze got fired by Auburn. I don't necessarily know if that's what anybody at Memphis would want, but a name that at least has recognition, could get the fan base on board. I don't know, but that's someone who could potentially be an exciting head coach for them if he can get himself back on track. Obviously, there are some things going on off the field that he's dealing with, but that's a name that I've seen linked to them as well. Plain and simple, Memphis has lots of options. Plenty of coaches that will be excited about being the head coach at Memphis. Plenty of coaches that are going to love this opportunity. Memphis is in a great place to be able to make a run at an American Conference Championship year in and year out. The NIL is sorted out. The right coach fitting there is going to be the biggest key. If they do that, Memphis is going to be a great program. Once again, they're going to be a contender. And again, the right coach being there is going to make all the difference.